Welcome back to the Pig Trail Show. We have Kevin McPherson joining us for a very big week of Arkansas basketball. Preseason is among us. It is here this week. We have some exhibition games, obviously, on Monday against Rogers State, and then on Saturday, the big one against Texas. Kevin, how are you feeling ahead of this Arkansas team, where they're at heading into these exhibition games?
Anticipation is at an all-time high right now, Courtney, because we talk about a program now that if you look at back-to-back season, Elite Eights, national top 10 final rankings, then you come into this season, preseason top 10, last year, preseason top 15. And then you look at recruiting, top five, number two in the high school recruiting last year, maybe the top overall class with all those 11 newcomers. So you're trending, your program's trending at least top 10 and recruiting top five. And so now it's for real again in just a matter of weeks. November 7th, the season opener. So you've got two more tune-ups in the span of 5 days. You said it. Rogers State on Monday, then you're at Texas on Saturday. So when exhibition games normally you're not as locked into, but because of all the anticipation, and then you factor in the fact that that second exhibition game's against a ranked team on the road, a high major program. It's number 10 Arkansas at number 12 Texas. Don't think that pollsters and national basketball folks aren't paying attention to a dress rehearsal, right? Then you got
They
three
are.
games at home. You know, you start out with three regular season games at home before you go back outside the continental U.S. for the Maui Invitational. It's a loaded field. We know the team had those three European exhibition games or four European exhibition games back in August. So this is a different kind of season on many levels. All the extra dress rehearsal games, playing a high major in preseason, and then you've got all the newcomers, so highly regarded though. And then when it gets real, we talked about the early parts of that non-conference and SEC. I think both of those separately are the toughest in since Musselman's been here and is entering his fourth season. Toughest SEC schedule, toughest non-conference schedule. Mash it together with 11 newcomers. There's more anticipation right now because still a lot of wonderment, even though they've had that red-white game and those 4 August exhibition games in Europe. And then Hog fans, got a little taste at Barnhill, but you got Rogers State. People can laugh at that.
Uh,
Division two
don't
tomorrow.
laugh at that.
Listen, last year East Central came in, led Arkansas. Division two, also out of the state of Oklahoma, led Arkansas by double digits in the second half. 3-point final margin for the Hogs. They had to fight back. That was anybody's game in the late stages. So you just never know. So even the exhibition games, they don't count, but you can bet they do count because
They
Eric
do.
Musselman wants to win them all. He wants to use them all to get better. And I think that Texas matchup, by the way, I want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to be looking for individually and team wise, but I think that Texas game is brilliant to play that on the road. And because I just talked about the fact that the schedule's so difficult, and you don't want a shock to the system when you go to Maui. You want your team to face live bullets against another high major team, against a team that can challenge you with talent, size, athleticism, and you play away from home in a true road environment. And the beauty of it is it doesn't count on your record and your resume for postseason. So I think it's a brilliant setup the way they're doing this, Courtney. Again, we got to see it unfold though. That's where the excitement is, the anticipation, excitement, and we get to find out in 24 hours in that first Division two exhibition game how much the needle has moved even since the red white game last week.
Yeah, and like you said, you can't underestimate any of these exhibition posts. Obviously, not Texas, but even D2. My dad's a D2 head basketball coach in Florida. I mean, they have gone and played, some Division 1 teams like Florida, and they kept in it with them. It was a really competitive game. So you can never underestimate these exhibition games. And obviously, for you, you said what you're looking for as a team and
Yeah.
individually. What are you looking for this week?
Well, first of all, as a team, several things. We started out talking about Musselman preferring a top 7-8 rotation. We saw him drill down in those final two of 4 games in Europe, kind of tighten it to top 8. Some of those in that top 8, I wasn't sure they would carry over to be in the top 8, as we got closer to the regular season. So we're going to see some of that play out. The other thing is a year ago, we talked about that nail biter against D2 East Central University. He substituted liberally in that game, and you expected him to continue to kind of look at different player combinations and personnel groupings. You wonder, is he going to do that again on Monday? I suspect he probably will, but I think a
Mhm.
lot of that also depends on how well they're playing or maybe how poorly they're playing. Again, he leaned on a top 8 rotation in those latter 2 games in Europe. Let's see if he adjusts that in game or if he just rolls with liberal substitutions, which again it goes against the flow of his strategy through a season. And then, so as a team, we're looking at rotations, personnel combinations that work. I think we're obviously looking at 3-point shooting and turnovers, big problem areas in Europe. Some of that, the ugly head reared its ugly head again in the red white game, 25% collectively after 28% in Europe. That's not good. Turnovers were a mess, 21 per game in Europe. They got, if you looked at each team, red and white, they did a little better. But when you consider it was a 32-minute game versus a regular 40-minute game,
Yeah.
you put those per 40-minute percentages and averages on that, it kind of ticks back up. So let's look at ball security. They were also sloppy with the ball in transition, even when they didn't turn it over. So they kind of missed some easy looks just because of some ball handling and ball security issues. So we're looking at 3-point shooting turnovers. I mentioned rotation, but sometimes beyond rotations and personnel packages, what are the chemistry between even position groups? Nick Smith Jr. and Anthony Black, they went against each other
Yeah.
in the red white game. They weren't on the same team. In Europe, they played a lot together in the backcourt, but there was a lot of liberal substitutions. So sometimes one guy was off the court and the other guy was playing. Let's see as we get closer to the season how much they're on the floor together. How much is Anthony Black, who is really a facilitator first, not a guy that really looks to score, but beautifully sets the table. How much is he on the ball? You want Nick Smith on the ball some because he can create, especially in pick and roll and scenarios where there's off ball movement. He can pick and choose as a scorer and a setup guy for others. And then I look at Trevon Brazile. I think those three names, when we look at even a starting lineup tomorrow night, those are the three names I expect to see in there. Musselman talked about in his most recent press conference, maybe one or two guys with starter value coming off of the bench in this game for more pop with the second unit. And maybe, he referenced some question marks still on his wings. When you're talking Ricky Council, the three, I'll just name them. Devo Davis, who's going to be a combo guy that can play the wing. And then Jordan Walsh, the other very talented incoming freshman. He was a 5-star. And then some of the 5-spot guys, Kamani Johnson, who's been consistent. We know what he does. Big guy on the glass, especially offensive end, blue collar, going to get to the free throw line, efficient guy. But you've got other guys like, Jalen Graham, who had a huge 10 of 11 performance for 25 points in the red-white game, the transfer from Arizona State, 6'9" forward center. He's a senior, had some good practices after Europe, didn't play a lot over there. And then the Mitchell twins, we keep an eye on those guys. How's Musselman going to use them? So I think we start to learn some things starting tomorrow night. I think the Texas game, I'm really believing by then we're going to see a tighter rotation just for that game as a more true dress rehearsal in terms of player combinations, Courtney.
Yeah.
But again, it starts again tomorrow night with Rogers State. We mentioned some of the problem areas. I think some of the positive areas we want to continue to see if they consistently do. If they've had problems shooting threes, they haven't put up a whole lot. Not a great volume of them when you look at it, which is smart. Play to your strengths, get to the basket. Added size, length, athleticism. We've been talking about this is going to be his best transition team, really good at getting to the free throw line, attacking the rim. And they have made that a priority so far in the exhibition games that we've seen. You want to see him stick to some level of consistency because you don't need to fall in love with something that doesn't work. Everybody loves the 3-point shot in this era of basketball, even at the college level. But if that's not your strength, then you don't need to fall in love with it and just start putting them up to please fans or prove something. You need to go out and play your best way to play to win games.
Yeah, and Musselman even said we probably won't be a big 3-point shooting team this year. And I think that's something that's good to recognize right now. And moving forward, you never know. I mean, it could get better, but play to your strengths. You're so right on that. I think what scares me the most, Kevin, about these exhibition games is that, Musselman kind of talked about it. They are a really young team. They sometimes have problems, listening at practice and things like that. This Texas team that they're going up against this week is a veteran team. And that, I think, is going to be a real true test for the young guys to go up against a team that has many players that have played together, that know kind of what they're doing in a sense, versus this team, which is why it's so good that they played in Europe and had all of that preparation and all of these dress rehearsals for such a young group of guys. How do you think that'll play into that matchup?
I think it does. When you look at guys like Carr, you look at some of the backcourt pieces in Carr. You've got Bishop on the front line. You've got Dessou, who was the Vanderbilt transfer, Didn't
Oh
really
yeah.
produce a whole lot last year at Texas, but a guy that was proven in the SEC. So you've got some pieces coming back. You've got the two talented freshmen coming in. When you look at the guard, Morris out of Texas, a 5-star. When you look at Dillon out of Florida, this guy was one of the most explosive leapers in that class of 2022. So here are some, highly level rated 5-stars that are going to help some of those veteran players. And it's Chris Beard, who does a great job of
Yeah.
coaching. Typically, his teams play to a grinding pace, very physical, keeping possessions down, maximizing possessions, putting a lot of defensive in your face, hot in the kitchen defensive pressure to force mistakes and get you out of your comfort zone. We know Eric Musselman has had really the bread and butter of his program the last 2 years, and we didn't talk about it before. What we'll be looking for in these exhibition games is Arkansas's defense. When we didn't talk about that, he said that Arkansas's defense has been inconsistent. That was in his most recent press conference.
Yeah.
You look back at Europe, that's probably true for the first half of it. Gotten much better in those last 2 games when he tightened that rotation. A team that's been top 10 when you look at defensive efficiency and advanced metrics the last 2 seasons of college basketball. So now you put that against Chris Beard, road game, yes, a more veteran team with players that have played as Longhorns, yes. I think Arkansas's probably got a little bit of a size and length advantage there. I think the athleticism is going to be comparable. But I love that matchup between two coaches who really, for both, it starts on the defensive end, and then the other things kind of fall into place. So I love it that you brought that up, Courtney, because that's really, to me, when you're focusing on an exhibition game, what are you going to take away from it? There's a lot to learn there. That's
Yeah,
why
it really
most of
is.
this, win or lose, there's a lot he takes from that. And I can promise you that defensive end for both coaches matters more than anything else.
Oh, for sure. I love that you said that as well, because I know both of them place such an emphasis on that, which is why I'm very excited to watch that game just as a basketball fan. But Kevin, we have to talk a little bit about recruits. I know Ron Holland, I saw him in the stands at that red-white game. He seemed to have a great time. There were some other recruits there too. Give us an update on those guys and how they're feeling, after that red-white game.
Ron Holland was ecstatic about it. He told me in an interview after the fact that he really felt the love from the Arkansas fans. He said this visit was even better. It exceeded what he had and experienced on his official visit back in early June. So the second time back on campus since June, and he loved it. He was able to attend Arkansas practice outside of just going to the red-white game. And the other things he talked about, no time frame for a decision. Arkansas is among his final 4 college choices. Plus, he's considering the NBA G League Ignite as a 5th option. He's taken official visits to all 4 of those final college schools, but when he took this unofficial visit to Arkansas, it capped 3 unofficial stops. First UCLA, then the home state school, Texas Longhorns, then it was Arkansas. He did not make an unofficial visit to Kentucky, one of those 4 college finalists. So it makes you wonder, is Kentucky really in it? I believe it's down to Arkansas and Texas. That's what I think right now. And I favor the Razorbacks, Courtney. I think Arkansas might just be in the lead there, even if it's slight. We'll see how it plays out. Things change in recruiting, but that's how good that visit was. In my mind, another visitor of 2025, Terrion Burgess out of Benton, Arkansas. 6'9" wing, going to be a sophomore at Benton High School here in Central Arkansas. Rated in the top 20 by 247 Sports, number 17 nationally. Doesn't have that 5-star status yet. They still have him as a 4-star. This young man's explosive. He's long. He seems to continue to grow. Next time we talk about him, he might be 6'10". I'm going to go check him out at practice next week, Courtney. But here's a guy that Arkansas offered. It's the first class of 2025 player that staff has offered a scholarship to, months ago. And a guy that really enjoyed his experience at the red-white game. And now, if you really start talking about 2023, when we talked about Ron Holland, we can't leave out Bay Fall and Hassan Diop. Bay Fall, the 6'11" forward center, top 15 nationally, a 5-star. Hassan Diop, 6'10", a combo forward, top 60 according to ESPN, a 4-star. These guys are cousins. They're teammates. They play in Denver at Accelerated Schools. They took an unofficial visit to Arkansas back in February for that big win over Kentucky. Love that experience. They spent time with the staff after that game across the street from BWA at the Performance Center, the Basketball Performance Center, where they met with coaches. Well, they were back on campus. We know that the first weekend of October for an official visit. Now, where do things stand? Arkansas's coaching, Eric Musselman, assistant coach Gus Argenal, they were out on Saturday, just yesterday in Denver, to visit with both Fall and Diop. So we've talked about the previous visits on campus. Arkansas's made them a priority going to where they are in Denver to see them. But I think Fall's probably, unless plans change, I think he's planning to visit Auburn for a second time this coming weekend. He and Diop were there back in June. I think Fall's going to go back. I've heard that Diop's not going back on this visit.
Oh,
That
wow.
could change too. And then we'll see if they actually take it. They've had visits set up previously that they either rescheduled or didn't take. But I think we could hear a decision from those guys, fairly soon. You've got the mid-November early signing period just right up, fast approaching. And I think these guys just might come off the board and get it done
Ooh.
in time to sign. Now, they're returning to the state of Arkansas during that mid-signing period for a showcase event at Fort Smith Northside, the Grizzlies' new basketball arena. There's 10
Nice.
teams, 5 games on a Saturday, so they're going to be playing in that. Wouldn't it be cool if they're off the board, say, to the Razorbacks, and then fans could go out and
That
watch
would
them
be
compete in state?
awesome. That
But I
would be
do. I think
awesome.
Arkansas leads for both. I still believe that. Recruiting's wild. Things change. But when I start talking about 2 5-stars and Ron Holland and Bay Fall and a highly regarded 4-star who I think's underrated in Hassan Diop, you put those frontline guys with versatility. Holland and Diop can even play some 3. And then you've got Leighton Blocker, a 5-star from the Little Rock area, already off the board and committed. Musselman could be in line for his 3rd top 5 recruiting class in the last 4 years, just looking at the high school part. Could be. I don't want to get everybody jumping off here saying I'm predicting these guys are going to commit and sign, but I think Arkansas leads for them.
Hey, I would love that. I'm sure the fans are really excited hearing you say that, Kevin. Really quickly, though, we have about 60 seconds left. Can you give us a quick Pro Hogs update? We got some playing tonight, right?
We got some playing tonight. Bobby Portis already doing Bobby Portis things. Milwaukee's 2-0. He's averaging 12 points and 9 rebounds, 50%, over 50% from the field, 40% from 3. So we see him doing that glass work. We seen him doing that board, that scoring work. Close to that double-double. He averaged a double-double in the playoffs last year.
He did,
But
yeah.
Milwaukee failed to repeat as champions. They won it 2 years ago. He was a big part of that. We got Moses Moody already playing a key role for Golden State. They've split their first 2 games, but ring night was opening night last week, and he got his championship ring for helping the Warriors win the title last year. We got Isaiah Joe now. I broke all that news about his new contract. He's Jalen Williams, the rookie at Oklahoma City. We've got Daniel Gafford already doing good things with the Wizards. Washington Wizards are 2-0. And of course, we've got Patrick Beverly now, who's kind of a lightning rod for controversy, is that pesky backcourt defender with the Lakers. Nobody gets talked about more than LeBron James and the Lakers, even though they're 0-2 and probably going to disappoint again this season. Although I think Patrick Beverly will help them be the best versions of themselves.
Well, I hope he does, because that would be really nice for all the Hog fans out there as well. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Kevin, as always. And we'll have much more Pig Trail coming up after the break.